Hey everybody, welcome to Happy Hour.
Featuring Emily Coutard.
Hey!
Yay, Emily's our guest, and she hails from the children's ministry at Church at Addis. Awesome.
Come and do cartwheels in here.
Awesome.
Second there when he said hails from I thought he was going to say something weird like Yorkshire of Duketown or something.
I thought you were asking legitimately where she was from.
Medieval location or something.
Try to break it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But trying to bring a little levity to the group.
Yeah.
All right, who's starting today? I have one about an English delivery driver, but does anybody have anything more like spaced out and not quite so close?
Well,
Is mine the...
I think his is the most spaced out, like literally.
So mine is
Literally spaced.
out. Yeah. So my feel-good story, I guess for the world, is SpaceX rescue of the NASA astronauts. These guys were supposed to go on an 8-day trip. This is kind of like Gilligan's Island, a 3-hour tour turned into a lifetime. And so these guys go up for 8 days and they get stranded for almost 10 months.
That's terrible.
That is terrible.
pretty bad.
I mean,
That's like, okay, that's legitimately the things that nightmares are made of.
Right.
Like you have
Yeah.
like these fear dreams of like, mine was always like a shark in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
Like that's never going to happen because it's not, it's not the
yeah,
ocean.
hopefully not.
But it's like so outlandish, but yet it happened. That's
Yeah.
terrifying.
I mean, I'm looking at these pictures and I'm kind of bummed out for this lady. Her eyes are all black around her
I
eyes. I mean,
know.
you've been there undergoing the rigors of space. And I didn't know all the stuff that can happen to you while
Oh,
you're
yeah.
up there.
I didn't either.
They say that's why you're not supposed to go past 6 months. Did you know you get taller?
You do.
Your
What?
spine decompresses. This guy grew 2 inches while they were up there.
It's like
This
the
one
best-
of the astronauts.
It's like the best chiropractic adjustment
I
ever.
thought that's awesome, except they said the downfall is they get back and it compresses all back and they have major back issues.
Oh,
So
Yep.
man.
these guys, you'll notice they like had to pull her out of the pod because they're so weak. They lose bone density to the degree of 1% a month while they're there.
Oh.
So these guys lost about 10% of their bone density. They're trying to drag them out of the little pod as they pull them out of there just because they're so weak. And the atrophying of muscles and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
anyways,
I mean, could they still like feed themselves while they were up there?
Well, that's what I was
They
thinking.
had
I was
to.
just kind of like, as a mom, did they have enough groceries? Like,
Yeah.
pack
like,
lunches?
do they pack
Yeah.
lunches? Like, did they have enough
Do they
water,
plan?
food,
Like-
Yes.
shampoo, conditioner? Like,
Like,
so
do
they
they
have
plan?
that stuff, and it's an international space station, as I understand. So they have other food from other countries that were up there, and they had the ability to send them some supplies, which there is a couple times that
Yeah.
supply stuff went up there for these guys.
So they could send supplies, but yet
But they couldn't
not
send
get
them
them back.
back.
That's
Yeah.
messed up. That's pretty
Yeah,
jacked
it
up.
is.
So
It is warped.
the deal
That's
is
not
the
cool.
last administration, which I'll leave nameless just to avoid a political outburst from the
Hello,
from the
crickets.
people watching, is they didn't go get them because Elon Musk, because SpaceX are the guys who rescued them, was tied to the president running, our current president. It was tied to him, so they didn't want to make him look good, from what I understand. Long story short, these guys are there for 10 months when they're supposed to be there for 8 days.
Yeah.
And so they finally sent them up there. They prioritized it. They got them, and they bring them down, and everything goes well. They're safe. And the feel-good story is, on top of all that, a pod of dolphins show up, and they're like, all
yeah.
around them, and it is kind of cool.
They said it
And,
was like a whole, I don't know what they call them, like a school. I don't know.
all of them.
A pod.
But
Is
a
it a
pod?
pod?
Well,
I
yeah,
think it's a
it probably would be a pod.
But they were down, and so it was pretty cool. They splashed down, and the crew of the Nine Dragon capsule that brought them back was greeted by a pod of bottlenose dolphins.
This is my favorite
To see
animal.
what the fuss was all about, and that's just pretty
Dolphin
cool.
is your favorite animal?
Love dolphins.
Yeah, so that's my feel-good story. They
Where-
were saved. We saved the astronauts. They're greeted by dolphins.
Where did they splash down at?
How much more ponies and rainbows can you have for that?
Yeah.
Where did they splash down?
In the Gulf of America.
Oh, what a way to break it in.
Watch
Nice.
this. Watch the response from the crowd now.
No, it's not the Gulf of
America.
America. It's the Gulf of Mexico.
What a way
Gosh,
to
I
break it in.
saw one video where a girl mentioned the Gulf of America in her video, and like the comment section was just flooded with "It's the Gulf of Mexico."
People
It's
lost their
like they
minds.
lost it.
Oh, to care
Yeah.
so much
That
about
could be the
something.
little button.
Yeah, hot take
hot
button.
take.
So the hot take is Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico. If you're going by how much land is on the actual Gulf, I think technically America has more land,
more land
on
on it.
the Gulf.
That
and
is
that's
correct.
The reasoning.
I don't know.
But I don't know. You know, there's a bunch of controversy. We're not trying to be politically divisive here. We're
No.
just trying to,
no.
We're just trying to have a little fun, all right?
I have one. There was a hero delivery driver. So, a British grocery store delivery driver saved a woman's life after she didn't answer the door and he got the feeling that something was wrong. So, he was delivering this lady's groceries. He wasn't even supposed to work that night. Like, he picked up a shift from somebody else. And he goes to deliver this lady's groceries and nobody answers. He's like, well, it's her scheduled time.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. So like knocks again and nobody answers. And he went to almost leave and he got this feeling that he should just go back and check that he shouldn't leave yet. And so he like goes behind one of her trees to her window and peeks in and sees her laying unconscious on the ground.
Wow.
And then he was able to call the ambulance and get medical help for her. So he saved a woman's life.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Over some groceries that could have been delivered to space.
Note, always listen to
Keep
that
that
internal.
delivery driver up there. I bet you could have brought him home sooner.
There were miracles around those times.
Wait, I just got what you said.
Yeah.
You said get the delivery
You
driver up
who
there.
did, I bet you he could have figured out how to get him home sooner.
That's right.
That's hilarious.
Awesome. Well, that's a cool story.
That's awesome.
What else we got?
Okay, I got one that's kind of cool. This undersea tunnel marvel is set to break 5 records and shave hours off of travel times in Europe. So basically, they're building like a really massive tunnel with railways as well as car lanes betwixt the shores of Germany and Denmark. A massive road and rail tunnel is being built and assembled for positioning under the seafloor. And they say it's like 11 miles, 18 kilometers, 79 segments. Each of them are like 700 foot long, and they weigh like 10 Eiffel Towers.
Where do they build something like this?
So, yeah, does it go under the ground, under the ocean, or is it going like through the water
Isn't
in
that
a
in
tube?
Alabama? Don't we pass
I think
through
it's
that to
through
get
the
to
water.
Florida?
They say that it's
No,
going
this is
into a
elsewhere.
trench.
We have a tunnel. We have a tunnel in
See,
Alabama.
been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like old news.
Yeah, but it's
Right, and
going.
It's not longer than Pontchartrain's
Let's
Bridge.
Yeah.
Longest one in the world.
Yeah, let's see. It says when finished, a pair of purpose-built pontoons will utilize 120 miles of steel cables to lower each section into place 40 feet down into a trench dredged on the Baltic seabed, connected to the other sections and then buried, making the structure the longest immersed undersea tunnel in the world.
There you have it.
Yeah. It's gonna be wild.
I don't know. Whenever I see stuff like this,
Do
I'm
you
like,
get
yay,
claustrophobic when you go into things like that?
110%. But I also just think of
11
like,
miles
okay,
and you're halfway through and you're like, what if?
what if suddenly like you see a leak start to spring and you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the weight of that water is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
How
I
do they
think I'd be-
calculate?
the pressure.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, how do they calculate like what's safe and what's
What's,
not?
what's shady about it? It says there will be no test run for the actual immersion.
I was just about to ask that next question. I'd hate to feel the guy or the person who's going to have to test that.
Yeah.
So they're just going to let a bunch of cars go through
And just
be
wing
like,
it?
All right, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Look, you get to go for free. Go on.
Stick your finger in the
Go
leak.
ahead.
You have to. You get to go for free, but you have to sign this waiver.
You have to sign this waiver before you enter it.
All right.
Bubbles coming up.
Yeah.
That's
That's
like
not good.
okay. Going back, this is also I don't know why these are like triggering my innate like childhood fears. But like at a zoo or at an aquarium.
These are supposed to be happy stories, and you're.
I
it's
know, I'm
triggering
sorry.
your
Yeah,
fears,
right.
isn't
It's
it?
like not sharks in the pool.
No, but have y'all ever been to an aquarium and like
Yes.
you see the sharks and you're like, what if? Like
What if, yeah.
the glass
The
just
glass.
cracks.
That's my wife.
Like Jaws
She's
3.
She's like always doing that. She's like the worst case scenario.
I do that
Like,
at the Audubon
what if
Zoo.
the sky falls?
When we go into like the snake part of it
Yeah.
in them rooms, I can't do it. I
Have
can't
that
do
whole
it.
Indiana Jones moment where there's like
Mhm.
snakes
I don't
everywhere.
Even look. I don't.
Da-da-da,
I look straight. I continue to
da-da-da.
walk, and
Snakes.
everybody's like, "Come see, come see." I'm like, "Nope, mm-mm."
Snakes are that's I only have a couple of things that I'm genuinely afraid of as far as animals go, and snakes are definitely one of them.
I don't like.
I
it.
don't.
How you go
That's
from
not.
talking about under tunnels to snakes?
Oh, because we're triggering her fears. Like,
Yeah, all of my childhood fears.
Do you have any fears?
Do I?
Emily, do you have any
Like
fears?
Not really. No.
like
Not afraid
no,
of
just
anything.
no
It's like Wonder
snakes or
Woman
anything, or
over there.
like alligators or anything.
No, because I guess I watched so many people in my life do some silly stuff, and I'm just like, no, I'll stay over here. I'm good. I'll watch you from a distance. My son, for an example, like, yeah, just watching him break every bone in his body when I was kind of stay back.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What
You?
about you, Aaron?
Creepy crawly spiders mostly. It's not really like a
Spiders?
fear, just like a special caution about them.
Okay, I have a
Spiders?
hot take.
Okay.
Okay, on playing on that, and I'm gonna joke about us for a minute, but
Hot take
in
button.
our relationship, he kills all the bugs, most
But
of them,
But not spiders.
but I do the spiders. So who kills the bugs in your family?
Me.
You?
My husband does not like spiders at all. No.
Wow.
But
See?
I will come up and just like
See,
stomp on a roach real quick.
my logic is I would rather have it dead than crawling around my house. So I will get whatever guts up I need to do to just
I'm
go
just
smack.
thinking in my head, my husband's like, why did you say that?
How about y'all?
I kill the bugs. I think Danielle kills. She's not afraid. She'll pick up like lizards and stuff. She's pretty much a country girl. Like,
Yeah.
You know, she's like gets in shorts and goes into like creepy lakes that you can't see in
Can't
the
see
water.
the bottom of it.
I
I
don't-
used to
I don't-
be
I
like
don't
that,
do-
but now
I don't like
guess I'm
those
older
either.
and I'm more of a
You're
wimp.
waiting
to
for
be
something
able
to
to-
rub across
I
your
have
leg.
to see the ground. that
Yeah,
I'm
you want to
walking
see what you're actually in.
But so she's
Yeah.
she's pretty brave about that. But I kill mostly everything in there when we have to kill something.
I will say this though, he may not kill spiders, but he will kill snakes. We have this story on our honeymoon where there was a pool in the Airbnb that we were staying in, and like I came from a family, my parents never learned how to swim. So they stuck us in swimming lessons for like 10 years. And I'm talking, it was religious. Every summer we were in swimming lessons. From the moment we were 6 until we were at least 12, and further if my parents felt like we needed more. And we had the most terrifying swim instructor. But on our honeymoon,
Greta.
look, her name. Okay. No, her name.
say und like it.
Okay, just to kind of tell you, okay, as a 6-year-old, how terrifying. Her name was Miss Mary Lou. She had the biggest pool in Louisiana. It was bigger than LSU's, okay?
Wow.
Lou, short for
She
Lucifer.
lived, she lived in Baker, and she basically would hire high school kids to throw kids into the pool if they were too afraid. And so,
Yeah,
Just
It was-
sadist.
sadist.
To my dad.
It's a sadist
was
women
awful.
instructor.
Shut
I
that thing
remember-
down in a quick minute.
this is probably where some of my fears come from with like water
It
and
is.
stuff. But you'd get thrown into the water, and she had a 10-foot high diving board that all these kids had to jump from. So she'd have a high schooler up there to dump you in if you were too afraid. And she'd be sitting in a floaty halfway through the pool, and she'd be like, swim to me, swim to me. And the whole time you're swimming, she's moving back. It was the worst. What's crazy though is that I talked to other adults whenever I was managing the studio in Zachary. I would talk to other adults in that area, and they all had her as their swim teacher too. So we all had this mutual like trauma from Mary Lou.
From being thrown in the
Wasn't
pool.
she like an Olympic trainer or something
No,
crazy?
she wasn't.
No?
For Germany.
No, I don't know if they teach throwing kids in the pool that way.
I thought you said she was a professional trainer or something.
No, I ended up taking a swim class in college for fun.
Okay.
I always did something athletic. Each semester, I would choose a different class to do. Like I did dance or swim, and one year I did swim, and that was the lady who was.
What if
She
she would
was,
have
Gotcha.
ended up being the professor at LSU?
I doubt it. She was not professional enough for that.
This is a feel-good story out of New Orleans. This is the Big Brother Big Sister returns to New Orleans after 20 years being closed by Hurricane Katrina. So basically what it is these it's a mentorship between they match these kids up.
Well, I remember the Big Brother Big Sister program. That they used to have that all over the place, and it did disappear. I don't know why.
It did.
Yeah.
It did after
All across the
Hurricane
United States, or
Mhm.
just Katrina?
Well, they're bringing it back. So what they did was one of the kids from 20 years ago is now grown up. And he
Aw.
remembers it. So he's
Aw.
bringing it back to New Orleans.
That's
so
a
Because
good
it-
feel-good story.
That's a good
and
one.
At the end,
Warm
it
and
looks
fuzzy.
like he was met up with his big sister from
Oh,
way
20
back
years
then.
ago.
That's
So
cool.
now they're both putting it together. They got about 15 matches. So yeah, that's been taken off.
That's sweet.
And that's
That's
in New
cool.
Orleans. I think
Awesome.
that's so cool.
That's really
That's
cool.
exciting.
That's nice.
I remember the story that I was actually going to with the swimming pool. It
What
was
was
about
it?
It was about our honeymoon.
Yeah, that's right. Right. The
Oh yeah,
snake.
you can tell
Yeah.
us what happened on the honeymoon.
No, so there was a pool in the backyard. I went to go swim. Aaron was still in the house for a few minutes. He was going to come down a little bit later. And I get in the pool. And, like, again, I've been in swim lessons since I was a baby. And I just had this overwhelming fear to just not swim. And I was like, this is odd. It's a really small pool. And I was like, I don't know why.
Yeah,
I'm
like
just,
a 5-foot deep.
I don't
pool.
know why I'm feeling so much fear right now. This is odd. And I look across the pool, and in the filter, there looks like there's a stick. And then the stick starts to move. And it was a snake. And so I lose my grits.
It wasn't just a snake. It was a water moccasin.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
It was a water
Oh,
moccasin
no.
in that pool. Aaron thankfully got it out and killed it, though. Did you
Did
kill
he
it or just
really?
sling it
I
across
Water
the...
threw it over the
moccasin.
fence.
You threw it over the fence?
You could see it go boomeranging over the fence.
You gotta be pretty quick with the water
What
moccasin.
what I
Yeah,
did was
I
I,
know.
I grabbed the net, the pool net, and
And
then just
slung
scooped
it.
him up and slung him out, and he
Oh,
went
that's
whoosh, whoosh,
good.
whoosh.
I thought you did it by your hand. I was like,
Oh, I would never.
that'd have been
I-
horrible
ooh.
to end the honeymoon that way.
No.
The water moccasin.
I had a brother that
I
did
may
that,
be
though.
brave, but I'm not stupid.
I had a brother that did that. We grew up in the country, and there was a snake one day in our yard, and my brother was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna grab it and get it." Thank God it was just a king snake, but
Okay,
he ended up
so-
grabbing it and
My snake story from about this just happened maybe like a month or two ago. So we live on the golf course, and I have a really bad habit of just leaving my back door open. Like I love having my back door open.
yeah.
Well, things like to crawl in the back door. So I'm picking up all the boys like their blankets and stuff, and when I picked it up, there was like a
Nope.
snake that just fell.
Nope.
I hopped
Oh,
on
my
my
Lord.
couch. I refused to walk around the house. I had to call Landon. I'm like, you have to come home. You have to really come home and get this snake. And then I called him a few minutes later after I'm sitting on top of the kitchen table, and I'm just sitting there because I'm afraid to walk around. And I call him and I'm like, is there by any chance snakes could climb? And he's like, yeah, why? Where are you at? I said, I'm on top of the table. He's like, they're pretty good at climbing tables.
What kind of snake? Do you know what kind of snake it
He
was?
said that
Yeah,
to you
I
on
think it
purpose.
was just a little
Just because he
harassment.
was ticked off that you were calling
I
him
had
from
to make
work.
him-
Yeah, they can climb anything. There ain't nowhere you're gonna be safe.
Yes, so I'm
No, where you can
petrified.
run, no, where you can hide.
So I still leave the back door wide open. Like
That-
I think it was actually open today, so I won't be picking up blankets for quite some time. But
That happened to us. I got home
Yep.
from grocery shopping one day with Joseph. He was still in his little carrier, and I bring Joseph in first. I bring him inside, and then I go out the car to the carport to get the rest of the groceries. Well, the door swings shut behind me, and there's a few steps leading up into our house. And I turn back around, and there's a tail sticking out from the door, and I
Yep.
was like, "Oh!" In my head, I grew up again on farms, and ours was always skinks. And so I thought it was actually a skink, which I also don't like.
Yeah, so I
And
get it.
I don't know if anybody out there doesn't know what it is, or do y'all know what those are?
Well, in the inner city, a skank is something different than
No. I said skink.
Oh, skink. I
she
gotcha.
did. It did say like sound like the other word, and I was like, okay, well maybe this is something different from where
No.
she's from.
No.
Like,
The whole tail of the door would be a different story.
No, it was a
on
skink
past
with an
that.
I. Okay.
This is
That's
why
the-
pronunciation
the
is
slimy-
important, people.
Slimy lizard.
It's a slimy lizard. And the last time I had worked with one, it was like at least a foot long at the last farm that I had to deal with. And it was nasty. So in my head, that's what's going through my brain. And that Joseph's inside with it. And so I open up the door. The tail falls through. It had snapped the tail off of whatever was inside.
Yeah.
And it falls down past
There was
the
like
steps.
a trail of blood inside.
And there was a
then,
trail of blood. And so I panicked.
I get a text message.
know where it's going.
And it's like,
No, wait. I got to tell you what I did with Joseph, though. Hang on.
Okay.
So I put Joseph on top of the counter because I didn't know where it
and he's
was
probably
happening.
just like, what is going on? Like
And
watching this whole thing.
Yeah. And I didn't text you. I called you, like, panicking.
oh, yeah, yeah.
I called him panicked. I was like, there's a skink in the house.
I thought you texted me, then you called me.
Maybe, but I saw something slither then behind our washing machine, and I was like, Aaron, it's a snake.
Yeah.
And then-
Was it?
Skink.
It was a snake.
No, it was a
It's a
snake.
snake.
And I was like, he was like, well, do you want me to come home? And I was like, no.
Snakes.
So I called my brother who lives about 10 minutes from us, and I call him. I'm like bawling, crying, like snotting.
Yeah,
It's not,
I'm an
it is
hour
not-
away from work.
It is not
with
my
work.
proudest moment. I call him panicking. He hauls butt to come back, and he ends up like doing the most to catch the snake, y'all. He
Drum-
moves our washer. The snake crawls behind it. A little bit about our house. In our washroom, we have a pet bunny. We have an indoor bunny. His name's Peter. but the snake crawls in Peter's pen, and there's a gate. And so Caleb, my brother, literally dives over the gate to get to the snake before it gets to Peter, and just grabs it. He doesn't think about like where he's grabbing it. He just picks it up.
I don't think that.
He was like, I got the snake. And I was like, what kind is it? He's like, just a garter snake, but it's biting him on his hand right here.
Oh,
Yikes.
Yeah.
It has no tail.
And it had no tail.
It had no tail.
Yeah, I had to deep clean my house after that.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Anyway,
Wow.
that's my
Tragic
saga
situation.
for where we live in the woods.
Serpentine Saga.
So
Yeah,
we've had canebrake rattlesnakes, and I've never seen rattlesnakes this big till I came to Louisiana. Now, California, where I grew up, there's a lot of diamondback rattlesnakes,
I've seen those.
but the biggest one I've ever saw was 3.5, 4 feet, not even 4 feet, probably just 3.5 feet at the most. These snakes are humongous. We're walking with all the kids.
Was this here? Like
Here, back behind our house where the new church is going to relocate to. And we're walking there and I hear this rattle and it's going away from us and I see the rattle and it's big. I'm like, what? And I keep looking and the thing is longer and longer. And this thing is like 7 feet long,
Nope.
maybe 8.
Yep.
I don't know. My eyes are pretty big. I was just like, and it was huge around. And I'm like, all right, there ain't no way. And, you know, our neighbor's like, oh, we got to relocate the snakes. I'm like, I'm not really. I'm going to kill every snake
Relocate
that I
them to
find.
heaven.
And so we found another one just a month ago, and we shot it. I just said, forget this. All right,
Yeah.
they're moving into my territory now. This one was on my yard, and it was like guarding my driveway for not letting anybody in or out. So I came in and shot it with a shotgun.
Yeah, we grew up with a lot of stories like that. I remember waking up one morning and my dad pulling out, I don't know if it was like a pistol or something or what, but we grew up with a lot of animals and we had a bunch of chickens. My parents, they primarily raised a lot of showbirds, and we had the chicken wire that around each pen, and there was a copperhead just woven into the wire. It was like a 6-foot copperhead just woven in between he was stuck. He'd been there all night long, so my dad just shot it and took care of it. Yeah.
Stuck. Life on the farm.
Yeah.
on the farm.
What you have to do to protect the animals.
Losing the video game snake, IRL.
Some people may not understand that reference,
It's
but
okay.
I had the Mario Nintendo, the little gray box. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
Is
Where
it
you had to
the-
blow on the little thing?
Yeah.
and
Yep,
it worked?
Nintendo 64.
Yeah, no, not even Nintendo 64.
Really?
It was like the original.
Or like SNES?
Mm-hmm.
now we did have handheld gaming systems. We had like the Game Boy Colors and we had the Game Boy Advanced, and whenever we got a little further along, we had the Nintendo DS. But that was the extent of what we were allowed, and even then, that time was heavily regimented.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
No.
we had an Atari, and it was in black and white.
What is?
Bloop. He had this game with he had 2 lines going back and hitting this ball back and forth with each other. Thought it was so exciting. You go a little faster. Bloop, 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 bloop. It's getting heavy now. It's
What I
getting
love-
exciting.
This game's getting real.
What I love is to see how things come full circle, that how all of the stuff that we grew up with is now like vintage and collectors.
Oh, yeah.
There was a kid that I
wish
just...
would've kept that
GameCube.
thing.
Well, there was a kid in the youth group who just bought a Walkman. He was like, I don't have a phone yet, so I wanted music, so I bought a Walkman. And it's like all retro and vintage and stuff, and
Man,
he's
the
walking
day a
around.
beeper comes
Retro.
back or a
Yeah.
pager, you're gonna see that hooked on my
Heck yeah, girl.
buckle.
Pager.
Yeah, so
I remember my dad having a pager, but that was about it.
yeah, trip down memory lane. I spent a week in Tokyo, Japan when we were in the Bible college, and it was this funniest story, but I'll get to that in a minute. So we went to a place called the Super Potato, and it was like a huge throwback because
Is it a restaurant?
No, it is a 5-story building dedicated only to video games and video game consoles.
Cool.
That's cool.
And so it was walls and walls. I'll throw up the pictures here, but it was walls and walls of like games from all the way back to the 80s and stuff, and
That's
all the way
cool.
up to present day. And they had like orange, gray, purple game cubes and stuff. It was really neat.
That's cool.
That's pretty
Why
cool.
The Super Potato.
It's Japan.
I was going to say that too, but
Ate potato chips
Japan.
while you
I was all ready for a story about potato bars or something like
I
that.
thought, I for
Oh,
sure thought
no.
that was going to be a restaurant.
So I grew up in San Diego, and in this one neighborhood that I lived in, it's called Mira Mesa, and there's a lot of Asian people there. In the Asian community, you're in America, you have a bubble. Like, it's about the length of your arm. When you step into somebody's bubble, like he's in my bubble right now
Yep.
because we're so tightly sitting next to each other. When we're conversing with each other, we'd never be this close to each other.
Nope.
Yeah.
But in the Asian culture, there is no bubble.
There is none.
And so I'm in line at this grocery store, which is a Safeway, which they don't have those here.
No.
They have
No.
them in California. And I'm at the Safeway, and I'm standing in line, and all of a sudden, this poke in my rear end. And I'm like, I went like this, like, what in the world? And then this little Asian lady standing behind me with some oranges in her hand, and I'm like, I looked at her
Excuse
and I said,
me?
okay, back up a little bit. I moved up, away.
she
and then-
moved
she
up
just
right
followed.
she
Yep,
moved up
yep.
and like both
Doesn't
so I get
register.
poked again. I'm like looking, I'm like, what are you doing? Like they put their feet right behind your
Yep.
heels, up to your heels, and
That's their
you got
culture.
a bag in your hand, and it's like touching you, and then she's all about being all up in your space and being on your bubble.
On your
And I'm
bubble.
like,
Talk about
good
being in your
night.
business,
Oh,
man.
yeah, you get-
She's
yeah, it's-
literally in the business. I'm like, so they don't. I mean, that whole space thing is in Japan and Asia and some of those areas is little. Like what we would think would be a full bus, where you'd look at it and go, or an elevator and go, yeah,
Oh,
no, you all
yeah.
go ahead. I'll get the next one. They're like, oh no, we're gonna get in there with you.
Yep, it's sardines.
Where there's
Like, it's
a
literally
polite-
sardines.
It's like a polite capacity cap.
Yep.
Like you could, but doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. Over there's none of that.
There's no room here.
We had one girl that we got onto a train, and it was like all the blue collar workers got on. It was kind of crowded. Then the white collar workers got on the train, and it was like so crowded you could not move. And they had a girl that was with us. She was kind of tiny, and she got stuck in mid-air because of how many people were around her. She couldn't touch her feet to the ground.
No.
Yes, it was that crowded. And
Put me down.
yeah, basically. But,
It being held by her shoulders.
but no, the funny story about Japan that I had was we were in Bible college, and Japan originally wasn't open V for the mission field, but the Bible college leader was like, I suddenly get the impression to make Tokyo, Japan open for the week of practical.
Okay, so a little backstory on that. Where were you? You were in Singapore. At
I was
that
in
time.
Singapore at the
And
time,
y'all-
3
there were-
months.
There were 4 countries that y'all were going between.
Yes.
The group was getting split up into 4 different groups, and each group was going to go to a different country. Japan was not one of the countries at first.
Yeah.
But the leader got the impression that he should open up Tokyo.
Yep.
And it became one of the options.
Yeah. And so it was crazy because, like, 2 weeks before I even went there to Singapore, I had a dream that I was in Japan with 3 other people, and I didn't know why or how. And I was like, hey, Mom, is Japan an open country? Do you know if Stephen has it open? And she said, no, it's not open.
Steven's the guy running the
Yeah, Stephen is
mission
the head of that mission school. And so, anyways, he's like, I get the strong impression to open up Japan, and he points at my best friend Ethan and goes, Ethan, you're going to Japan, and Aaron, you're his best friend, you go with him. And then a couple of days later, he had one of my other best friends, Michael Nico, and his wife to be Nicole. It's like, y'all are going with them, with Aaron and Ethan.
Where did the other groups go?
So the other groups went. One person stayed in Singapore. One person went back to Cambodia, where we had stayed for 2 weeks prior to that. And then I want to say one person went to Malaysia or something. But then this other group went to India. And it was funny because before we left, he goes, all right, I'm sending you off to your countries tomorrow or whatever. He's like, all right, so Japan group, I envy you guys. India group, good luck.
Yeah. Okay, but the funny thing about it though
Yeah.
is that whole mission thing in Tokyo
Yeah.
for them, they did like missions work and then like vacation.
Yes.
But the India group comes back and,
it's
tell
like
them what happened to the
it's
India
like
group.
hell week for them because we get to Japan and the local missionary, which is Stephen's oldest son, is like, look, the first 2 days that you're here, we have nothing but church services all weekend.
Yeah.
But after that, I have nothing for you. You can do whatever you
Yeah,
want.
so it's like a vacation at that point.
And
Once the
so we
training
had
was
like
done.
5 or 6
Suffering for the
days.
Lord.
Yes, we were suffering for God,
Suffering for the
martyrdom. But we were going to like the anime capital of the world, the Tsukiji fish market, like
And-
all these fun places.
And bless the people who are in India because
Yeah.
they come back all having had malaria. So they're
Yeah.
all they go 2 days in church services and just vacationing, and everybody in India literally almost died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Thank the Lord they all recovered.
Yeah. Parasite.
the guy who went to India, 'cause all the guys were staying at a house in Singapore, all the girls were staying at a house. And so we get back like 2 days before the India guy comes back. His name's Cade. And he comes back, you can see exhaustion in his eyes. And he's wearing like the Indian garb or whatever. And he's got this big smile on his face. And you can tell he's just worn out. And we're like, how was it? And he goes, oh, it was great. Like we had one instance where somebody almost died, but I can't talk about that. I bent into the mud and changed the tire that fell off of the rickshaw. And I woke up the next day with disease on my kneecaps. Like,
And you have his
he's
group.
like, and then because I'm the guy, we went to the locals and ate there, and you have to eat whatever they give you.
Oh, but
and
then
he's
if
like,
the women don't eat,
if
they
the
would
women
give it
don't
to
eat, they
him.
gave it to him. One girl was like, I can't eat no more, and he had to eat like a double and a half portion because he's the guy.
It didn't all make him sick.
They're all sick. They're all
It's like
losing their
straight
lunch.
up Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
And the Temple of Doom.
And they're like
There's so many
comparing
monkey
notes to
brains.
make sure they all have the same disease.
What's for dinner?
It
Monkey
was,
brains.
it was, yeah, it was like that. So
I'll have an apple.
he gets back. He gets
I
back
wouldn't
and he's
even
like,
eat that.
he's like, it was
horrible.
great. He's like, so how was y'all guys' trip? And we all just kind of looked at each other. And we're like, yeah, we went on vacation. And his face, I watched it go.
The most suffering that they had to do. Okay, was
Yeah.
this also the house where they had no AC, where the wife wouldn't let y'all keep
That
the
was
AC
in
on?
Yeah, that was in Cambodia.
Oh, well, they were staying in Cambodia, and to kind of enforce a little bit more
Suffering.
and enduring things, they wouldn't allow. They had AC in the house that they were staying in, but they wouldn't allow them to run it to build like endurance of like suffering through things.
Yeah,
But I think that was the extent of your suffering in that,
that was
trip.
it.
Where the
Just
other
no
people,
AC.
So
yeah, just no AC.
My easiest mission trip. It was horrible. I mean, it was a good mission trip, but when I tell you where it was, you're just gonna look at me and go like.
Really? Yeah,
So we went on a mission trip to Maui.
that's awesome.
So everybody's like,
Well-
every time I say it,
sure
everybody
it's a
goes like this. They
vacation?
go, what? But it really was a mission trip, and I didn't know that they have the largest group of homeless people in the world.
Really?
That
They
makes
all
sense.
are on the beach, and they all move into the mangroves, and they make them get off of the beach during the day so people can go visit the beach. But at night, it's just a sea of
Oh man,
Wow.
tents.
I
But
didn't know that.
that's
people
tragic.
were taking, like Arizona was taking their homeless population, giving them a one-way ticket to Maui.
Arizona?
Yes, getting them cleaned up in the shower, giving them new clothes, and sending them on a one-way ticket to Maui, and they get off there and they would be homeless. In Maui, very liberal kind of a state, they get a Kelty tent. A Kelty tent is a nice tent. Like, those are not cheap. You get a Kelty tent, a mountain bike, and a cell phone. And then you pick up your food once a month from whatever your food card thing is that you get from them.
This is if you're homeless in Maui.
Yes. And
Okay.
so all these people have this really nice tent, a mountain bike, and a cell phone. And I'm like, what? But there's massive amount of people. So anyways, we did that. We worked with those guys, and we did some training and discipleship and stuff like that for those guys out there. But that was the least time that, we kind of convinced people we were suffering for the Lord. I have to put some sunscreen on.
Oh no, sunburn. The
Do they
horror.
still do that? Do they
Gosh.
still send people from Arizona, or is that like?
No, they stopped it. It was during one of the senators who was sending over there is no longer a senator in
I feel like
Arizona.
I feel like that's the equivalent of people sending their prisoners to Australia, and it's
Well,
just
sounds
becoming
like
a
it.
prison
It wasn't
country.
just Arizona. California was sending
Yeah.
them there. Washington State. They were just getting them off of their streets and sending them there. And they were not rejecting them. They were just taking anybody and giving
That
them
doesn't
that
solve
stuff.
any kind of an issue, though.
No, it
No.
just
No,
relocates
not at
everybody.
all.
But
Yeah.
it's 86 degrees roughly all year round. So they're not freezing.
They're not suffering in the cold, though.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah.
So is that the only mission trip you've done, or have you done others?
We've been to Honduras, and we support a hospital in Honduras. our church here supports a hospital in Honduras, the school there, and there's an orphanage up the hill from it, but we do the jungle hospital there. So our missions director, Heather and Mark Younger, are the guys who were missionaries there for 6 years. That's why they speak fluent Spanish and everything like that.
So where was it? Where were they at
They
for
were
6
in
years?
they were in Honduras. I can't remember the name of the town that the actual jungle is, but it's way up in the mountains, and then they minister medically to all the remote villages from there.
What time period were they there from?
I think they went a bunch of times, right?
Well, we've gone back a bunch of times. We still go there. So McKenna, my daughter, is there as a missionary right now. She
The
gets
same
home-
place they were?
She gets home Saturday.
Gotcha.
And
Oh, cool.
so
Nice.
she'll be back Saturday. She'll go to work for Centrifuge for the summer here, and then she will go back. She wants to go back there. But that's where Mark and Heather were initially. We also opened a school, or helped a school in Nicaragua. And so we have a school in Nicaragua that we support. We've got them their curriculum and stuff so they can do the schools down there. And for a while, we were helping support an orphanage and school in Mexico. And that's Ernest and Ruth McCall, who are the pastors
Yeah.
here at our Spanish or Hispanic church here at Addis that meets on Sundays at 8:30. So those guys were there for many years until they came here, and then we brought them on as the pastor for the Hispanic ministry.
That's really cool.
So those areas have been on a mission trip. I've also been to the Puerto Rico and gone up in the mountains where it's really poor. We've helped those guys up there. I've taken students to that before. Those are pretty much the places we've been to for missions from this location.
It's
here.
cool.
I've been to Alaska for missions trips and stuff. So we've done that. as
I have a
well.
friend who lives out there in Alaska.
I was there. That's where I got saved, and supposedly, I don't think I really was a Christian one. I think I knew a lot about Jesus, but he was really not the Lord of my life. That's a different story. But it was in Alaska where we started our route, so we went back there and did some missions work up there. It was pretty cool to go do missions work up
That's
in
cool.
Alaska. So that was kind of fun.
that's cool.
Outside of Fairbanks. So animals don't run away from you there. Like when they see a human hear you make a noise, and they dart off. When you make a noise or something, the animal just goes, looks at you to see if you're
In
bigger
his
than it
bubble.
is, and it's like,
making sure you're not in
do I
his bubble.
stomp you or do I let you go? And
Well, like moose are a big issue
moose
out
are
there.
a big issue. Most people get in. There are more moose car accidents because they get up on the road in the winter time to walk out of the snow, and cars hit them, and they're so big, it goes through the windshield. The body is way up high, and then people get stomped by them when they have calves. They are mean.
I was gonna say they're actually pretty
Really?
aggressive
Nothing wrong
too.
with
Like if you see them, it's not one of those. Oh, look a moose. It's like, oh, look a moose. We gotta give it its space.
Yeah, it's not bullwinkle. It's like this meanness.
Yeah.
They come at you. It's weird.
That's crazy.
Way bigger than a horse.
Where would you never ever live?
India.
India. I would honestly have to say someplace like Alaska, like just the lack of sunlight and the cold. I don't mind cold. I'm fine with it. I just couldn't live in like the no sunlight, the always cold.
Oh, I'm an introvert. I could definitely live.
You could do that?
Same.
Oh yeah.
By the way,
Oh,
we're
I
moving
couldn't.
to Alaska. No, I'm just kidding.
Whew.
Well, the flip side of the coin is it's 24 hours of daylight in the
Yeah.
summertime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
but your
you can be
circadian
outside.
rhythm has to be so,
It's so
screwed
jacked up.
It's pretty jacked
Like
up.
what day is it?
What's
There's some
today?
weird things about Alaska. Like they eat more ice cream per capita than anybody else in the world. And it's-
Okay, do you know why
That's
though? Because my
awesome.
friend who lives out there says that depression is one of the and suicide are one of the highest rates out there
They have
because of
huge
the lack of sunlight most of the
cabin
year.
fever. They say
Yeah.
you got to get a hobby
Yeah.
if you're going to be inside all the time like that.
Yeah.
That's what they told us when they're in the military up there. Get a hobby. What? Build puzzles,
What's a hobby?
models,
Just
Minecraft.
stuff you can do.
Yeah, they didn't have Minecraft when I was in the military.
Yeah, that's true.
Where would you never live?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I have a place that I would say I would never live. I think if my husband was like, okay, let's go, I like to try everything once.
Yeah.
So I think I really don't know.
Okay, but there's no option
wait,
to leave.
Hold on. I will never live in Bayou Saul. Wait, and let me tell you why. Because remember snakes? Let's go back
Yeah.
to snakes, okay? When it flooded there, there's only like one highway in and one highway out. Okay,
Yeah.
so we bought this piece of property we're supposed to build a house on. He wanted a piece of land, so I found one in Bayou Saw. Well, we were like gonna start building on it, and it flooded. Well, we went to go check on the land, and I'll never forget this. There was a 6-foot round snake, like just slithering. I was like, nope, sell it. Let's go.
Sell it. Burn
Sell
it all. Just
So then we moved to the island, and I will never forget. I was laying in bed, and we didn't have the blinds on the windows yet, and there was some rodent crawling across one of the holes, and I turned over and I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Oh, that's the nutria rat." I said, "I moved here to get away from swamp stuff." And he's like,
Wait, this
"We're
was in the-
surrounded by a canal. Like, what do you mean?" And I'm like, "Okay, I'll never."
Nutria rats.
A nutria rat. There you go.
They had a nutria fest in New Orleans when I first moved here to go to seminary. Mm-hmm. And they would like make chilies out of them and all kinds of stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, that's a rat.
I
And
have
they're
some.
like,
Yeah.
I have
Oh,
a friend
yeah.
who did that with possum before.
It didn't go. I guess it stopped because people just couldn't get. If they named it something like whatever, a nutria, whatever, anything, nutria fawn, then they would probably be able to eat it. But because it was called a nutria rat, it didn't go over very well. Those things, which is why I would never live in New York because the rats are bigger than the cats. So
Jeez.
The rats
know.
are bigger than the cats.
yeah, they're nasty.
They
That's
must not
gross.
be around like crowded areas.
Plus,
'Cause
New
we
York's
went to New York, and
expensive.
I didn't see. Yes, it is very expensive. We went to New York, and I don't remember seeing rats or anything. But I didn't go by like the subway and stuff. We
Yeah.
stayed kind of.
The opposite of that. Instead of a place you would never live, I had this. If I could pick a place I would absolutely want to live, well, one of them would be Bora Bora, and it's funny because I like to look up like vacation spots on YouTube and stuff. And I stumbled upon Bora Bora for the first time, and I sent a video of it to my friend Ethan, and it was so funny because he goes, he sees it, it's like this pristine blue, aqua blue
Yeah.
water,
It's
this
like all the
mountain,
pretty parts because it's a
real
it's a
beautiful.
video.
all what.
And they
yeah.
they do have villagers that live on the island. They're kind of poor-ish, but like it's such a ritzy like area. But it was funny because Ethan sends me a text when he sees the video, and he goes, "Aaron, I'm feeling a strong urge and unction from the Lord to go and be a missionary to the natives of Bora Bora." And I said, "I'm sorry, what? Be a missionary to the natives? I want to be a native."
We
Makes
would
me sad.
we've
Live,
had
it's
that
on fire.
conversation before where okay, we might want to live on a beach to like dream just living on the beach somewhere, but we recently visited Virginia and really liked it. It was really pretty out there. Like I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect blend.
Lynchburg is cool. We
get
should
all
go
four
visit
seasons.
Liberty University.
Eventually, when I graduate.
When she graduates, we'll all come out there and cheer
y'all
and
are
hold
all
up-
to come to my graduation.
Yeah.
Hold up Emily
Yeah.
heads. On
Yeah.
our-
Big bobblehead. I think I would have to say if I was to live anywhere, it would be Sedona.
Really.
Oh, that's
Arizona.
pretty. That is pretty.
Me and Landon went for our anniversary a couple of years ago, and I mean, every corner you took, you was just like, wow.
It is beautiful.
And man, we saw cactuses, like real cactus for the first time. And when we pulled up to the Airbnb, he's like, "We got to get out more." Like we just got
We
really
have to get
excited
out more.
over cactuses. But that was a cool trip. That
They
was
have
a
snakes though there.
Yeah.
I
they
didn't
do.
see any snakes, but I mean, I was pretty loud walking, hiking and stuff. I'm not a normal hiker.
It's
but
pretty there.
It
The
is
Sedona
very
is beautiful.
pretty there. Very pretty there. So.
All right.
It's pretty cool.
Well, that's it for today,
so.
sports fans. So if you guys have anything you'd like to say, we would love to have your input. Click like, share, get this out.
Subscribe. Yep. Don't
Subscribe
forget
to
that.
us. And we are excited about having your input. We're going to formulate our questions and our hot takes on what you guys send us. And we get all kinds of views from the boomer. That's me. To the Gen Z people and everything in between. We want to be able to just make you smile a little bit.
Yep. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.
Bye.